Welcome into the Book It podcast. Thanks so much for joining me again. If you're an event or equipment rental business owner, you're in the right place. I have a super exciting topic ready to go for you. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about creating demand before the season slows down. We're talking about the slow season. You might be thinking to yourself, it's May. Why are we talking about the slow season? The answer is that is exactly when you need to be thinking about what comes next. Because if you wait until the end of your busy season to think about the slow season, you're already way too late. I have 5 strategies for you as a business owner that you can start to work on now so that way by the time you get to your slow season, it doesn't look so slow anymore. If you're like a lot of event or equipment rental business owners and you don't think about what comes next in the slow season for your business, then when you start to talk to some of your customers and your suppliers and all the other businesses in your market and ecosystem, and you're only then talking to them once things have slowed down for you, they're going to know that you're only talking to them when it serves you. You need to serve them early and serve them first. So when it comes time for business to slow down a little bit, you're the preferred vendor. So if anyone in your market's getting any kind of business, it had better be you. So we're going to talk through those 5 strategies, starting with the first one. The first strategy, we're going to reactivate former clients. Why on earth is that our first step? Well, the answer is this. If for every single past customer, you're able to get back into your ecosystem, consistently renting from you, consistently putting in reservations. If they only put in 1 or 2 reservations during your slow season, that is massive for your business. So we want to bring those people in. We want to show them a great service. We want to make sure that they know that we're still paying attention to them. They're still valued. They're still a partner within the business. So that way, when the slow season comes, we're able to tap into a broader network. The tighter that network is, the lower the number of contacts that we have to get a hold of, to do business with, the less business we're going to get. It's very simply a numbers game. So we need to start reactivating those people today. If we go to them in the slow season and say, hey, it's been a long time, how's everything been? They're absolutely going to know that it's a very self-serving way of getting their business. Every business partner wants to know, are you going to be with me when the times are good and be with me when the times are tough? And if you're only coming to me when the times are tough, you're not the type of business partner that I want to have. Now, here's where this gets really interesting because some customers, they fall off the map, not just because you've done a bad job, and that's very good information to know because you want to figure out how do I fix this, but they sometimes fall off a little bit because they don't have as much business for you. So that's a really interesting piece of information to know. Now, again, this is a business partnership. They're not just a customer. They're not just your vendor or you're their vendor. And with that in mind, we want to establish something that no other vendor is going to establish with them. And that's this. We're going to help them with their business if they're indeed struggling. So if they're struggling, what you don't want to say is, oh man, that's terrible. Well, give me a call when things pick back up. Well, that's a fair weather friend. What we don't want to be is a fair weather friend. We want to be there in sickness and in health, just like marriage. And so with that, we want to say, why don't you stop by my office next Tuesday at 2 p.m. I have a couple of ideas for you on how I can help with that. Or we might say, share with me a little bit more about what that looks like for you. Or have you considered this? Or can I introduce you to someone? I have a really great marketing guy that just does phenomenal things for our business. Can I set up a 3-way call with all of us to discuss if that might be a good opportunity for you? No matter what it is that you have to offer something, offer it specifically and tangibly, and try your best to give them something that they can actually work with. What that is going to communicate to them is that you have a vested interest in them and their business specifically. On the flip side, if they hear, well, I'm only going to really be there if you have something for me, that is not a partner they want to do business with. So that's number 1. We're going to try to reactivate some of those people that have either fallen off or they have low year-over-year numbers. Strategy number 2, segment-specific outreach. Now in this, whether you're an equipment or event rental business, you're going to have specific segments of business that you typically work with. So on one hand, it could be, I typically do work with schools and nonprofits or DMCs or wedding planners, photographers. I have partnerships with DJs, any number of things that you might specifically be doing business with. Now, the key to this is every single different segment of business operates a little bit differently. Their season might look a little bit differently. Their needs and the inventory that they require are going to be a little bit different. What we don't want to do is to fall into this mistake of having a catch-all solution that we cast a very wide net out there and say, who here wants what I have to offer? Especially if we have not vetted that offer. So truthfully, what we really want to do is we want to go to these different segments and get to know what their pain points are, what their struggles are, and then we want to diagnose with our solution how we can help with that. So talk to me a little bit more about your slow season. If you don't have business, I don't have business. And what we both want here is to be successful. Again, we are partners in this. Our jobs are to make money or to support each other. Without me, it makes your job harder. Without you, it makes my job harder. How can we help each other? What can I provide that's going to be helpful for you? And then we want to provide a solution that's really going to help with that. When we start that conversation early, we can prepare early. Additionally, if you're only looking at a couple of different segments, you're missing out potentially on other segments. And so oftentimes what you'll see is when the wedding season starts to dip, your DMCs in corporate and commercial business starts to actually improve. And so without getting into a ton of detail on some of those specifics, we're going to save that for another podcast episode later in the future on very specific campaigns and ideas that we can run to help really bolster our slow season period and help eliminate it altogether. At least for today's episode, what I'm going to share with you is this. We start that conversation early. We get a feel for what it is that they want, and we work in partnership with them. We don't want to guess. We don't want to cast a wide net without knowing where it is that we're actually fishing. We want to be able to get the information so we know what to provide. And that allows us to build offers specifically for that segment of customers. Strategy number 3. Now, this one might be one of my favorites, and it's because this is all about community. So we've talked a lot about partnerships, and you're going to hear that theme run through all 5 of these strategies. And that's because we don't build businesses in a vacuum. We build businesses because we're providing value to different people. People understand that value, and they service our business because they know that we're meeting it. And so with strategy number 3, what we're going to be doing is this. We're going to be building events that are year-round to help engage our customers. The goal here is to create a network of people where we are the epicenter. Now, let me explain what that is and why that's so important. I know someone who runs a marketing company. In the midst of making that marketing company, he launched a part of that business, and all they do is host networking events. Now, whose name and information pops up anytime you search for a marketer in this area? Of course, it's that guy. His name pops up everywhere because he's on more websites. He does a ton of networking. People are talking about him. They're talking about his events that he's putting on. And while you don't necessarily have to do things at the same scope, you at least need to understand how to start working towards that in your own business. So I have a handful of ideas, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but I want you to be thinking, how can I make this strategy work in my business? So the first one is, let's say that you have a party rental company. You have a lot of bounce houses. A good way to get your name out there in the community is to have a farmer's market. You set up a bounce house. Any kid that comes around, or maybe, someone like me who just really wants to jump on a bounce house because it's been, a couple of decades, and you let them bounce for 5 minutes. Maybe you run some promotional offers at the same time. The promotional offers really don't matter, but certainly run something so you can try to capture some business. You want to invite as many different small businesses. You may, in fact, invite some of your other customers that you do business with. It puts you in a position where you're actually giving them a platform to do more business. So that's a value add of them doing business with you. And if you put some sort of nominal fee in place, where in order for someone to have a booth at your farmer's market, if they're a current customer of yours or if they give you business, you just waive that free and clear. Again, the point is not necessarily to make money off of this event, though you absolutely could make money off of this. And not everything has to be centered around events. It could simply be all the other vendors that you see in any other farmer's market. You just go around and you say, hey, I've launched this event, and I think you would be a perfect person to have there. Here's my information. And because they're a savvy business owner, they're absolutely going to say yes, provided that they're available during that time. Now, again, this puts you in a place where you are the epicenter. When people think of this event, they will think of you. Now, there's a ton of other ways of doing this and applying the same thing. You could run a networking event that's very specific to your industry. So that way, whenever anyone thinks of your industry, they think of your networking event, and they also think of you when they think of your specific niche. And so you can invite anywhere from photographers and DJs and caterers and all the other miscellaneous vendors that are present in this. They're going to be inclined to go there because they're also trying to meet new people and to win new business. And you have full control over that event. And while you're there, you can do educational topics. You could do short speeches. You could hand out awards. You can do anything under the sun that you want. The best part is you can leverage your network to do most of the work for you. Maybe you're not the best public speaker and you don't want to do all the speaking. Well, you could offer the opportunity for someone to do a little bit of a plug for their business and do a little bit of the speaking at the event. So again, all of this doesn't have to be on your shoulders. All you have to do is set it up and put different people in charge of different things. They do all the work. You get all the glory. Again, you're at the epicenter of it all. If you're an equipment rental company, maybe they're not really looking for as much networking. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. So what you could do instead is this. You could host training seminars, training workshops. They could either be live and in person, or they could be online for people to log on and view. If people don't like that, you could go to their work site. You could go to their company location and you could provide hands-on training there. There's a number of different things that you can do to make your business stand out amongst all the other competition, to do the things that they're unwilling to do. If you have new types of equipment, or you know that everyone rents a scissor lift or a forklift or has to hook up a trailer or whatever it might be, all you have to do is put yourself in a place where you're hosting something probably monthly, an hour, probably no more than that, maybe some light refreshments, and put it at a time that people can attend. Our third strategy is all about creating a networking environment where different companies and different associates from those companies are all in that same shared space. It could look like a farmer's market. It could look like a very specific networking event. And the best part is when you actually start to get people in the same room together, certainly outside of the office, you start to have a lot of different conversations. And if there's one thing that I've heard from a lot of business owners, a lot of these deals, they're not done over the phone. They're not done over email. They're not even done during the meetings that we set up to do the deals. They're done after hours. They're done when, someone's standing at a table saying, hey, are we going to do this or what? And it's after you didn't even talk about the business deal. You didn't even talk about the reservation. It's, I've gotten to know you. I like you. You're a good person. Let's do some business together. And so part of implementing these events is not just making yourself the epicenter of everything that's happening in your given market. It's also putting yourself in a position where you can have more conversations. Imagine picking up the phone and someone answers, and they're answering because they know that you provide more value than just you asking them for more business. You pick up the phone and you say, hey, we got another event. It's coming up 2 weeks from now, and I'd love for you to be there. And they know when they pick up the phone, there's a money-making opportunity for them in it as well, because there's a bunch of other vendors in that room for them to network with as well. So don't just think about who do I want to do business with. Think about who do they want to do more business with. And that is part of the key. Now let's go over to our strategy number 4. We're going to shift a little bit more on the same idea, but we're going to talk about training and learning opportunities. And I think, especially for our equipment rental businesses out there, this is a really good opportunity. What you can do is you can host, and it could be for the general public, but I would focus more so on your recurring commercial clients at hosting educational workshops and safety workshops for their teams. There's a couple of different ways that you can do this, because in the middle of a workday, it could be very difficult for that business to get even one of their team members over to your physical location. So depending on the type of business you have and the type of market you have, maybe that works well for you. Maybe you offer to go out for your existing customers and provide some of these service on site. And it could look like a couple of different things. It could be you show up, you give a 30-minute presentation to their team. Maybe it's on safety. Maybe it's on the functionality of a new piece of equipment. Maybe it's a combination of the two. Now, that's a value add opportunity for your customers, which is kind of a sneak peek at our last strategy. But before we get to that, if we are to meet our customers on site and provide them a service, we can put a dollar amount on what that service costs. And then beyond that, we can waive that for current and active customers. Hey, you've been such a loyal customer for us that we have this service. Normally people pay us about $500 to come on site and provide this. We're going to do it for free. It's a way that we provide value to our existing customers, and we'd love to do this with and for you. Can we get our guy out there? Now, here's where this bridges into something even better. Your person shows up, they give that presentation, and then afterwards, they're having a very normal, natural conversation about their business. How is business? How are things going? How's this job going? I see here that you have equipment maybe from one of our competitors. What can I do to win the rest of your business over? Is there something that we're not doing as well? Is there something that we could be doing better? What's worked really well for you in the past? What are some of the challenges that you're anticipating coming up in the future? Is there a way that we can support and partner with that? Now, as your team member is listening to all this information, you might think to yourself, well, it's not my job to provide all this. We just provide the equipment. But I'm going to pause you right there and tell you something fundamental about business. Your customer does not care what you don't provide, but they will care about what you do provide. So it doesn't matter if that's not your job. If you provide that value, they will come to you for it. And that's ultimately what we want. We want them to come to us. So what is it that they're either getting from someone else or they're not getting at all that we can provide for them exclusive as the vendor for that? Now we can apply this same model in a different situation, and it's going to help us with about 50 other things that are happening in our business. And it's this: we provide an event where we invite our customers to come and speak to maybe young professionals, to people in the space already that are maybe developing in their career. It could be any number of different people. It could even be people from the public. It doesn't really matter exactly who that audience is, but we might say to them, this is an opportunity to plug your business and your experience and speak to an audience that we're going to bring to you. Yet another value add for this business owner. Now, what we get out of this is a handful of things. We can help give people a ramp up into the industry. And it gives them an opportunity to say, well, if you're looking for young people who are just getting into the business and you're trying to identify some young talent that you could bring into your business, you speaking at this event will give them that opportunity. Strategy number 5, we're going to be talking about value add offers. And what I mean by this has everything to do with perceived value. So often we as business owners will look at something and we'll say, well, I have to give some sort of discount here. If I'm going to incentivize people to engage with my business and to book more work, I have to give value. And so they'll put 10% or 15% down. And I have to say, your average consumer is completely blind to a 10 to 15%, sometimes even 25 or more percent decrease in a price. Now, that has everything to do with the fatigue of what we see in the majority of sales and marketing materials out there. We have this immense fatigue of seeing all these crazy sales. And so when we're also used to seeing an 80 or a 90% or even a buy one, get one or any of these other things, it just means a little bit less to us. And at the same time, we're also looking for the value shoppers. And now we're value shoppers, that may not be our ideal client. We might take them on. But again, if I could find better customers, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to go for that. So instead of discounting the price, we want to add more value. And the key here is we're going to add more perceived value. So let me give you an example of this, and we've already covered it. If you come and do work with us, I will send out one of my team members to one of your job sites every single month to deliver a safety training to your team or to do an equipment walkthrough. If it's the first time, maybe you have some new people on a job site that you just hired and you want to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to operate the equipment safely. Well, absolutely your team can do that, but what if your team didn't have to do that? What if we provided that for you? Now, when you look at all that, you might say to yourself, my true cost on that is $200. And your opportunity cost is also you get more face time with the customer It's a great excuse to be on their job site, to look at their equipment, to see if they're renting from anyone else, to talk to a business owner or to a decision maker in that business, and to see how you can get more equipment on rent. So that's a huge opportunity. But if we're just looking at our basic cost to do that, well, it's pretty minimal. And if we provide that add-on value, that's an immense value for them. Instead of saying, I'm going to give you a couple $100 off of your next reservation, which a business owner looks at that and says, okay, I mean, that's $200, I guess. They don't really care about that. But they would care about how much more work could my team do if they're not having to babysit a new employee on how to operate a specific piece of equipment. So that's just one idea. If we look over at our event rental side, we could look at it like this. If a customer reaches a certain value amount for their order, we give them something off of a list for free. And that list could be made up of inventory items that are slow moving. It's a great opportunity to get them out there and to get them in front of customers so they try to use them again in the future. And it's an opportunity for that inventory to pull a little bit more of its weight. That inventory piece might be $15, $25, $30, $50. And the perceived value of, hey, your order reached $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. And because of that, you get 1, 5, 10 things off of this list for free at this event. Now, all of a sudden, you provided a lot more value. And the reality is, especially if you're putting the right types of inventory on this, you're not necessarily adding a lot more space in the truck. You're not dramatically increasing your delivery or pickup times. If these are pillows or blankets or props or maybe an accent chair or a small table or a side table, these are some items that maybe they're just not renting as well. And they could still pull a little bit more weight without taking up a ton of space inside of that truck. And it's a wonderful reward and a very pleasant surprise to a bride and a groom or whatever the event ends up being. And again, it just depends on your inventory. It depends on what you have. It also depends on what's on that list and maybe what's not moving. Adding in $100 worth of value for a $5,000 booking, what that also might do is say, hey, if you add in an extra $250 onto this reservation, you get an extra couple of things off of this free list. Well, if those extra couple of things are $100 and they go up $250 or $500 to get those free things, this is part of how businesses engineer higher average order amounts. And that's exactly what we want to do by putting in a lot of perceived value. Now, that perceived value actually has to generate said value. You can't put in all of your crappy stuff. When your guy goes on site to deliver a safety training or to do a walkthrough, he can't phone it in. You can't just show up and say, well, I think that's how it works, or I'm not really 100% sure. If you already have a salesperson, it's a great opportunity for them to get their hands dirty on the actual equipment that they're utilizing. How much better will they be at their job when they can actually walk someone through how to operate that piece of equipment? That helps them become an industry expert. That helps them sell better. So we actually have to follow through on the value. We can't just say value and not deliver. Again, there's a million ways to do value add services, but another way that I see that businesses in the rental space just don't do enough is to inform our customers of all the work that we're doing for them that we don't nominally bill for. Now, that for an event rental company might be some design services. Let's say, on average, you spend a couple of hours for every single event that you do, putting together some suggestions on what to do for a wedding. Now, that's free labor. It's a value add that we provide to some of our customers that we're not necessarily putting a dollar amount on it. It's one that maybe they take for granted. And so what we can do is we can say, for every single one of our customers, we waive a $500 event curation fee because ultimately we want to make sure that we're putting the right inventory for the right event. We want to make sure that you have the best experience possible, and we don't want you to necessarily have to pay for it. So if you're one of our consistent or active or however way you want to put it, we're going to waive that $500 fee. So every single time you come into the door and you do work with us, you're automatically saving $500. Now, you don't even have to discount $500 because you added a fee and then you discounted it. And again, I'm not saying make up something. I'm saying track what you're already doing for that customer, put a fee on it, and then immediately waive it. If you're immediately waiving that, what they're going to do is they're going to say, I'm already getting $500 worth of value. If this is a client that would otherwise haggle over price, instead, you're already saying, I'm starting off this by saying, I'm going to waive this because I care about you. I care about your event. I want to make sure it's an absolutely dynamite experience for everyone. And so I'm going to include this in our service today and moving forward. Now, as we zoom out and we look at not just this last value add strategy, but all of our strategies, all of these have to do with partnership. And I know I've said it a bunch in this episode, but the reality is this: businesses want to partner with other businesses that are interested and engaged in what their business needs and wants. And you need to step into that void. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that business happens from a rental perspective in your market that you are not aware of today. Business happens. Business is being passed around. There's opportunity, money-making opportunity, not just free work, not just photo shoots, not any of that. Real tangible work is happening in your market that you have not yet captured during the slow season. And no amount of promotions or new inventory, different types of services alone are going to do that. What it truthfully takes is getting out, getting to know your customers, getting to understand their pain points, and meeting them where they're at. And if you can't do that effectively, if you don't want to go out to a million different locations, host an event, bring them all to you. That's efficiency. Curate and engineer the environment that you want. So take any number of these ideas, mix them, match them, come up with something brand new. Ultimately, what you must do is create a plan, start it early, get out and see those customers, let them know that you're open, you're ready for business, ask them what it is that they need and they want during that time period. And if they don't know, you got to keep asking. So that's all I got for you today. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Book It podcast, we're going to do another one here in a couple of weeks. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one.